Welcome to chapter 28. And as I promised, as we are starting to run out of morphology to present, especially inflectional morphology, there's still some derivational morphology to come. We're more and more going to start looking at constructions. And in this chapter, the first one is going back to something that we already looked at last week. Last week, we saw the imperative third person plural, and now we're looking at final clauses created by the imperative third person. Sorry, not first person, third person plural. Single can be singular or plural, together with mannen. So yeah, it's what it says on the can. It's fairly straightforward. If you use the imperative third person plural together with mannen, you can indicate that something is done for something to happen. Like Schoschen tudem lum imbalan sharenet. In spring, it, and we're talking about linen, was spread on snow. And why was it spread on snow? So that with mannen, lige, it would be the linen white. We spread it on the snow so that it would be white. And this works in negation as well. So for example, here, me vudem optena, we poured water. Why did we pour water? Pushenge inje koshko mannen. So say mannen saying which then means so that pushenge, the tree, inje koshko, so that it wouldn't dry up. So on its own, pushenge inje koshko would just mean may the tree not dry up, the tree should not dry up. But as soon as we put mannen and then something afterwards, it's saying that we're doing that thing in order for that to happen. We have already had final clauses with mannen before when we learned things like konkurse stosengash mannen tudel chot yamdelalten. They prepared strongly so that they would win at the competition. But there is a limitation that this had, the usage of the infinitive together with mannen, and that is that it only works when we have same subjectness, when I am doing something for me to blah, blah, blah. She is doing that so that she will win in the competition. But in these sentences here, in most of these, the subjects of the two clauses are different. We poured water so that the tree doesn't dry up. So using the the imperative here, it gives us this new tool set, a new tool with which we can mark different subjectness. So another new construction we are learning in this chapter is a necessitive construction consisting of the future necessitive participle with the ending shash and ulash to be positive or negative. So it would be, for example, luchash ulam, etc. And this construction is especially used, so this is by far not the first necessitive construction that we've learned. We already had kulash, like melam ludash kulesh, I have to read. We had the necessitive infinitive in man, melam ludman. In those two, it was always the person who has to do something was in the dative. In this now, careful, the person that has to do something is in the nominative and is marked on the verb, mi luchash ulam, I must read. And this construction is set apart from the from other necessitive constructions in that this is showing an ethical obligation of sorts. Like if I say melam kayash kilesh, I have to go, it could be like, okay, I have to teach tomorrow morning and I need to go home and I need to get some sleep. So you're being somewhat neutral about the reason why you have to do something. If you're using the shash ulash construction, like in this one, we must all research, preserve, and strengthen our native tongue and our customs. Where it is so we all our native language and the customs. Shimle shash ulana. So this ulana refers to all this. Shimle shash. We must research this. We must preserve it. We must strengthen it. We are basically pleading towards an ethical obligation in this case. Or you don't have to wait. There is no ethical obligation for you to wait. So Alternative forms of simple past tense two. This is something we saw when we first met the simple past tense two back whenever it was, and we saw it in chapter 21 in the interview already. If we remember how the simple past tense two came to be, how this is a recent development, how it was formed by having the converb in n or gerund in n, whatever we want to call it, followed in the positive by forms, by endings that go back to stilted forms of to be, and in the negative where we just have the converb with the negation of to be. It is clear that like forms like tolanam, I came, was originally tolan ulam, come I, coming am. And yeah, I mean, and I mean this the origin of the endings of the simple past tense two in forms of to be. We can see that by the fact that it is always am regardless of the conjugation class. First conjugation tolanam, second conjugation I knew palenam, where we would always have a in the second conjugation. But the thing is that the endings of the simple past tense two are endings of a first conjugation verb regardless of the conjugation class of the basic verb. And we can only see the conjugation class on how the converb that's at the core of this is formed. So, okay, this is just the history of it that is absolutely transparent in the negation, and can still be untangled in the positive forms. The morphological forms that we've been using all along, the periphrastic forms that these go back on, especially those of the plural, luden ulana, from whence ludena, luden ulada, whence ludenda, they are still used in spoken Mari in particular in the dialects, especially the plural forms. That's why I have the singular forms here in gray, because that's more marginal. So yeah, this is not something you have to actively use. It's not really part of standard Mari, but be prepared for it. It does happen. Words and word usage. What have we got? So purash, to enter, to go in. We want to look at the different facets of meaning of this verb. In its basic function that illustrated in these examples, it just means to go into somewhere, to enter something, to go in a house, to enter a building, whatever. Intransitive always, I'm going in. In these sentences that we have here, when we're talking about like languages belonging to a family, where an estimate is here made of 15 languages belonging to the Uralic language family, linguists will know that trying to set a concrete number of languages in any family, especially such a low one, is a problematic notion, but well, it's in the text. If we're talking about 15 languages belonging to this family, what we are literally saying is 15 languages, about 15 languages are entering into this family. And this just means to belong to. Like this city enters into the Kirov Oblast means it belongs to the Kirov Oblast. Yeah, in these examples, we are having it, the verb is being used figuratively in the sense of beginning to do something, starting something, like you're entering into, you're stepping into an activity. The samovar is starting to boil, the samovar stepped into boiling, it entered into boiling. With the dative, it could be like somebody started working as a salesperson in a shop. So literally it is like stepped into a store to a salesperson in the dative, and that just means you started doing this job. Yeah. And finally, connected to the first point that we had, but remember how motion events are verbalized in Mari if you want to indicate both the manner how something was carried out, like were you swimming, were you flying, were you crawling, were you breakdancing, were you jumping, whatever, and the directionality of movement, like in, out, whatever. Purash is used in the sense of in. So if you have, for example, an airplane flying into a cloud or a swimmer swimming into the mouth of a whale, then you would always use a converb indicating the manner of the movement, like chomishten, flying, and then a syntactic subordinate, purash, entering, going into something. Like flying, entering is flying into something. So, türlü, which we have met as an adjective meaning different, various, of all sorts. So we can have like türlü rayon lasted in different regions, türlü şudum, different herbs, türlü yanlık, different animals, diverse animals. Critically, it can also be used as a noun meaning different things, all sorts of things. And it's often used in sentences where it almost seems kind of euphemistic. Like tida ideme ne again türlüm oylat. A lot of stuff is said about this person. Different things are said about this person. It's kind of implied that it is. Well, it's not going to be harmless. It's not going to be stuff like it is said that he has 2 cats and he really likes to read science fiction novels. It's going to be something either negative or just salacious in some form. If you cease to preserve your language, many things can happen to it, the unspeakable, so to say. Many things were experienced during the war. Like, I mean, it's heavily implied that these are not pleasant things that were experienced. Finally, we have a construction here which is used to equivocate, to say neither yes or no, basically, which is, it works with or without negation, which if you say like umelashische oget umelo, it's like basically they don't understand to understand with a possessive suffix then in the to understand. And this is used if you say like do you like fish, or like you're asked do you eat fish, and you're saying like I can't eat it, I'm not a strict vegetarian or vegan, I'm not ethically opposed to eating it, but I don't like it. Then you could say so like I can eat to eat it, but I don't want to, basically. Or have you been to Kazan? Well, I haven't been, but I've spent so much time on Google Street View or whatnot that I basically know the place, so it sort of feels like I've been. So like Rüdernergen Palasche Palenam. Well, I knew about this center. I knew that it existed, but I didn't actually know very much about it. So it's like the in-between answers with this construction. So the text in this chapter pertains to a hypothetical encounter or hypothetical visit of a Finnish linguist in Jyväskylä, talking to students at Murray State University. And the text in this, like the journalistic text, the YouTube clip, and from Murray News that we have pertains to a meeting of the Russian Finno-Ugristik Journalist Association, a forum that was held in Jyväskylä, and it includes an interview with a Nenets journalist that is then translated into Mari in the video clip. The song of the week this week is not actually a song, but a poem, because it was my birthday during the teaching of this class, like between the 2 lessons of our learning group. And the text, it's more like a poem that is recited by Mari children on the occasion of a birthday, together with some dance moves that are roughly laid out in the text to the poem. But you probably have to see it in person to really understand it, and we didn't have the means to orchestrate it in person at this point in time, maybe later. So with that being said, see you in the next chapter.